On Christmas Day, 25th December 2025, the United States bombed the intelligence unit and hideout of terrorist camps in Sooto State, Nigeria, with the most sophisticated weapons ever fielded by the United States. Sokoto State, the state of the Caliphate, a historic cultural center in northwest Nigeria, unexpectedly became the focus of a U.S. counter-terror operation. Groups like Islamic State, Sahel Province ISPP, and allied fighters like Lakurawa had expanded from the Sahel, exploiting porous borders and weak state presence. The Nigerian government, under security pressure, shared intelligence with U.S. African Command (AFRICOM). Before the strike, weeks of intelligence collection preceded the military action. Satellites, area reconnaissance, and human intel confirmed the presence of extremist camps. Targeting had to obey strict rules, fixed locations, avoiding civilian concentrations, and credible verification of hostile elements. Every successful strike begins not with missiles but with information, and in the Sahels, locating militants without civilian harm is a daunting task. A Tomahawk is a long-range subsonic cruise missile capable of precise GPS-guided strikes from over 1,000 miles away. It flies low, weaving through terrain to avoid radar. It isn't a ballistic missile, it's a guided glider of destruction. The Tomahawks fired in this mission came from a U.S. Navy surface vessel patrolling the Gulf of Guinea, hundreds of nautical miles from Sokoto. Over a dozen missiles were launched in coordinated ways. They used satellites and inertial guidance to autonomously navigate toward target coordinates. Imagine a steel arrow guided not by eyes but by satellites, not by hands but by code, hasting across a continent to its mark deep inside hostile terrain. The missiles struck two camps in the Bounty Forest region of Tangasa local government area in Sokoto. These camps were assessed as assembly points for ISIS-linked fighters and plotted on targeting grids. The strike sequence was synchronized. First, Tomahawks, followed by loitering surveillance to confirm impact. Local reports described explosions shaking villages, shock waves felt tens of kilometers away, glowing night skies, panic among residents, and subsequent government messaging to stay calm. It wasn't just steel and fire, it was sound, a rolling thunder of geopolitical consequences echoing through the night. The US framed the strike as counter-terrorism, responding to extremist violence that threatened both local populations and regional stability. Nigerian authorities publicly confirmed cooperation, emphasizing the operation's precision and intent to protect citizens. Please, before we continue, I want to make a passionate appeal. 96% of people who view these channels are not subscribed to this channel, only about 3%. When you are subscribed to this channel, it helps YouTube to push this content to other viewers. Please help Impact Media to grow by subscribing. Thank you. The operation underscores expanding US-Nigeria security cooperation. It also reflects broader US counter-ISIS policy globally, adapting lessons from Iraq and Syria to Africa's Sahel. Official figures on militant casualties remain vague, but multiple extremists reportedly killed. No confirmed civilian deaths, though debris reached nearby settlements. Future operations may hinge on continued intelligence sharing and the Nigerian government consent. Critics warn of misidentification risks and the dangers of foreign military reliance. As the dust settled over Sokoto's forest, one thing became clear: that modern warfare is not just fought on battlefields, but with satellites, data grids, and political gambits across the continent. What happened in Sokoto was not just another counter-terror strike. It was a signal, a message, and a turning point, not only for Nigeria, but for Africa's place in the global war on terror. For years, Nigeria has fought insurgency largely on its own soil, with its own forces, its own losses, and its own consequences. But this strike changes the framing entirely, because when a U.S Tomahawk missile flies thousands of kilometers and hits a terrorist camp in northern Nigeria, it tells the world one thing clearly: Nigeria is no longer seen as a local security problem. Nigeria is now treated as a frontline state in global terrorism containment. What happened in Sokoto was not just another counter-terror strike. It was a signal, a message, and a turning point, not only for Nigeria, but for Africa's place in the global war on terror. It matters because terrorism in Africa has evolved. Groups linked to Islamic State are no longer confined to deserts in Iraq or mountains in Syria. They have shifted quietly, strategically, into Africa's ungoverned spaces, and Nigeria sits at the center of that shift. From the Sahel through porous borders, across weak governance corridors, extremist networks have fused ideology with banditry, kidnapping, and organized crime. What begins as local violence quickly becomes international terror infrastructure. That is why Sokoto mattered. The strike sent a direct warning to terror networks that Nigeria is not a safe base, not a soft frontier, and Nigeria is not a blind spot. For the first time, militants hiding deep inside Nigeria territory must now assume that they can be seen, tracked, and struck, even without aircraft flying overhead. That psychological shock alone changes the battlefield. But for Nigeria, the implications go even deeper. This operation places Nigeria into a new tier of security partnerships. Not advisory support, not training missions, but active, intelligence-driven, precision cooperation. That is a major shift. It suggests that Nigerian intelligence is now integrated, at least in critical moments, with global counter-terror systems, satellite surveillance, signals intelligence, target verification. This elevates Nigeria's strategic value, but it also raises expectations, because once you enter this level of cooperation, the world expects results, not symbolism. And the danger is clear: a missile can destroy a camp, but it cannot hold territory. That responsibility still belongs to Nigeria. From silent maritime platforms in the Gulf of Guinea to hitting coordinates deep inside Nigeria, the Sokoto strike showcased the lethal precision and complex calculus of modern cruise missiles. But behind every launch code and targeting grid lies a human story of geopolitics, local suffering, and the ever-challenging quest for security in a fractured world. What do you think is the future of counter-terrorism in West Africa? Drop your thoughts below. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. See you next time. Thank you.